Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Trading the Markets with Kris Bullock, aka Blastoplast. This is the show where we dive into what's going on in the markets, see if we can find any trade ideas, and of course, take all your questions live. So if you have any questions, just submit them on the live chat on X or on platform or on YouTube, and we will take as many as we can. Well, the markets are up, Kris, and I was asking you off air, does that mean government shutdowns are good for crypto? Well, we'll dive into the charts and we'll see what's going on in the market today. But government shutdowns are not good for my internet. So, guys, I might be in and out. Just bear with me. Kris might be going solo at some points. I'm in my parents' basement, so times are a little tough here and there. But without further ado, with further ado, I do want to remind you all that you can join our wait list because something is coming. So join the wait list, head over to realvision.com/waitlist to join. And of course, while you're in the mood of joining something, join our Discord, guys. Come in, take part in the chat, take part in the Hive Mind sharing session. We talk about all the charts, all the tokens, all the time. So make sure you guys join us and take part in the chat. All right, now without further ado, Kris, happy Wednesday. What's on your mind as the candles are looking green right now?
I mean, yeah, I think it's crypto is up. It's Uptober, as they say. It's what we've all been waiting for. And right now I'm asking myself, is it just the market makers kind of doing their typical Wednesday, pump and then reversal back down into the weekend? Or is there more to it? Is there more meat on the bones? Is there more going on than just that? And I think there is. I think there's a lot of good stuff going on. I mean, we're seeing from a macro standpoint. Let's start with just some kind of basic macro stuff. We're seeing that the dollar index is trending downwards, which I think is a good sign. At the same time, we're seeing global M2 is trending up. So those two things are key. We need those things to be in place for this larger sort of Uptober sort of Q4 trend that we've all been waiting for. This is a good sign. It's a good step in the right direction. Also, just today, new PMI numbers came in, which I know we talk about a lot. We know we need the PMI to be above 50. It's not above 50 yet, but it is up about 4 basis points from last month. So at least it's trending in the right direction. Baby steps, I guess, if you will, but at least it's not going down. So we're inching closer to 50. And I think, maybe next month we'll get the magic number. But like I said, at least at the moment, we can say that it is putting in a higher low. And it is a slightly higher high, from this previous peak back at the beginning of the year. So I'll take it. I'll take it. If it needs to ladder up, that's fine, I guess. But at least, again, we're trending in the right direction overall on a longer term basis, and at least in the last 2 months. So I like what I'm seeing there. Also, I think it's important to note that we're seeing a little bit of a bump in ETFs. We had a major sort of dip last week in the final. We saw the sort of 3 weeks in a row trending down, and then we saw a net outflow of ETFs in the final week of September, or the final part of September here. And then also with Ethereum too, we saw a big dip, a net outflow of ETFs. And if we look at this current week, we're back to the upside. We've got a net inflow looking at, the current week right now. And then the same thing with Ethereum, a net inflow ETFs. So we're seeing some institutional money come in. We're seeing some macro data, fall in line. And all of this is good, which leads me to Bitcoin, which is basically just doing exactly what I've said it's going to do for, the last month plus now. We had a big, and I think what I want to point out here is I noted how, this first chunk, I drew some choppy lines because I knew it would be choppy. And then when I sort of predicted the bottom, I said it was just going to kind of run from there. And if you'll note, we've got some big solid green candles here, over the last few days. We're up 3% today. We had another almost 2% here, and then we had 2.25% here. So we're seeing some nice big candles that sort of is reflective of this run up out of these lows that I was talking about. And right now we're at a pretty key resistance level, which I've kind of got outlined on this chart here. I had drawn a line on this previous peak here that we set back in the middle of September, right at about 118,000. And I said, once we get above this level, this is going to kind of be the key uh, to sort of signify the breakout, to signify the new uptrend. And we've kind of wicked above it so far today, which I think is a huge step in the right direction. I'd really love to see us actually close above this level today, which would be even more bullish, but I'll take a wick for now. At least in the moment, it's technically a higher high. So we've got a high here, we've got a higher low here, and then we've got a higher high here. So again, everything is kind of trending in the right direction. So far so good. Big green candle today, pierce above this previous high, and everything is moving in the right direction. There's a lot of other assets that we're going to look at throughout the show that are also doing really, really good things too. Well, I don't know if you want to dig into them now. I don't know if we have any questions. What do we got, Bijan?
Yeah, I want to take this one question before we start digging into a
Sure.
bunch of things. So Alex Jensen from the platform wants to know, so we have not closed the CME gap from the weekend. Do you think we have to retest the $110,000 mark for Bitcoin?
Well, it's funny with those. The CME gaps do close about 90 or so percent of the time. I think I read somewhere in there. So there's always a chance that it will come back down. But also, there's whatever, a 10% chance that it doesn't. They don't always close all the time forever. There are some that do get left open. I don't know. It's tricky with that. Like I would. It doesn't seem like it wants to come back down, but those CME gaps definitely are, compelling for sure. And like I said, they do close more often than not, much more often than not. So I don't know. My gut tells me it probably won't, but the odds aren't in my favor either. I think though that, I think that definitely if we close above 118 today and sort of continue this momentum, the odds are lower and lower that will actually play out. But we'll have to see. I don't know. It's a good question.
Thanks for the question, Alex. And another question, Kris, before we dive into some more specific tokens and charts, more of a general question for you. Because there's been a lot of talk of an extended cycle, right? And especially, Raul and Julian just did their AMA, their live AMA on the everything code, kind of walked us through everything with, just a lot of charts, right? And
Right.
so the line of thinking now is that, we kind of might be extended to Q2 of 2026. What are your thoughts on that? Is there anything that you're seeing in the charts that kind of, may agree or disagree with that?
I honestly very much agree with that. And it's funny, I've been thinking about this quite a bit over the last few days or even weeks, and I'm starting to wonder if we're going to see a scenario play out where we do run into Q2, even maybe we kind of sort of peak, quote unquote, around the April-May timeframe, and then we have a bit of just a lull over the summer, but maybe a bigger lull. Maybe like it's a 4-year cycle peak in April, but maybe we only correct 40 or 50%, across the board with Bitcoin, and then run up into a new 4-year cycle right away, towards the end of the year, or like an extended cycle. And what that might look like is kind of, if we look, let me pull up like Bitcoin on the weekly here. Because I can see kind of a similar thing playing out to what has played out really over the last 2 or 3 years, where, we had a big run up, and then over the summer, it was just sideways, boring sideways. Everybody was so bored, over this stretch in 2023. And then in 2024, it was even much worse. It was like, we had a big run up coming into February, March. We sort of peaked around the April timeframe here. And then it was just like down only, basically until September. And then we rocketed out again. I can kind of see something like that playing out, only with just like a bigger correction. Maybe we get a 40 or 50% correction instead of a 20 or 30 like we've been. And maybe that's like all we get for like a bear market, for the big sort of year-long bear market that we're all expecting. It could be something along those lines, and then again just keep running after that. So I'm very much in alignment with what Raul and Julian are saying. I think that makes sense. I think too, a lot of you could talk about too, like the PMI, what we just talked about, it's not even at 50 yet, and I think once it gets above 50, it will likely run for some time. In fact, let me go back to that real quick, because I think because it was suppressed for so long, it's likely to run for quite some time after. So I think that that's going to skew things a little bit too. I think that the dollar index is likely to, let me kind of zoom out on this. I've got all kinds of stuff here. This is a good question. If we zoom out on the weekly, on the dollar index, I could easily see that coming all the way back down to these sort of low 90s, high 80s levels that it did sort of in the whatever, let's see, the late 2021 timeframe. I could see it coming back down to here. So that'll sort of, again, fuel a longer rally. And then finally, I think, oh, I had another good point. Damn it, what was it? I mean, long story short, yes, I think that there's a lot of good reason for that to play out. Man, I had a really good point. I forgot it. Well, maybe I'll come back to it. But yes, I think that things will run for some. I remember. So the Fed chair. So Powell ends his term in May, and we kind of know from just a lot of rumor talking about that the new Fed chair that's going to come in is likely going to be what, less neutral, you could say, partisan, even a bit of a puppet, even, if you will, so if we get that, we know that they're going to be heavily pro crypto. We know that they're going to maybe make a lot of short-term decisions that will positively impact the crypto cycle, maybe at the expense of longer-term economic stability, even perhaps. But I think that, we've got all of this stuff coming in line. We've also got regulatory framework and legislation coming online. That's all going to be Q4, Q1. So we'll need a year for a lot of this stuff to play out. So there's a ton of reasons why we could see a very extended cycle, maybe even well beyond Q1 or Q2. So that's, all of that is why, yes, I'm very much in line with Raul and Julian on that.
Yeah, definitely goes to your point too of, kind of maybe a shorter bear, or, it's just a smaller correction than what we've been used to in those bear markets and before we start back up again.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So before we have a couple of questions about some specific coins, but before we hit those, let's maybe look at some of the majors right now. Let's what some of the ones that are hot on your watch list that you're really into. I know hype is something that we talked about on Monday that you were really, still very much bullish on. What of the majors are you, most bullish on right now, or that have your attention?
Well, I wanted to touch on Ethereum real quick because I noticed this. I was looking at this a minute ago before the show started, and we had this big wedge pattern that Ethereum was in, starting going back all the way back to 2021, and it had broke out of this wedge in August, and then it kind of came up, touched a new all-time high, and it got rejected here, which wasn't surprising. But it came back down, and if you'll notice, well, let me go back to the daily time from here. It bounced off the top of this wedge pattern, like, to a T. I mean, just perfectly. It came down, tested it as support perfectly. It was resistance here, broke out, came back down, tested it, and has bounced perfectly off of it. So nice technical pattern here. I think Ethereum looks really strong. I think it's going to continue heavily to the upside. Same thing with Solana. Solana almost looks even better still. We're seeing Solana follow this nice laddering sort of up pattern, perfect higher high, higher low, nice bounce off the bull market support band here. I really love the look of Solana and this structure that it's in. And then Hype, like you said, Hyperliquid is almost the same exact type structure, not quite as pronounced to the upside, but still a nice ladder pattern of higher highs and higher lows that it's continuing. So Hyperliquid continues to look really strong. Pengu is another one that jumped out at me. Nice big double-digit day, perfect bounce off of the bull market support band here. There's not a ton that's actually putting in double-digit days, so I think it's noteworthy, the ones that are. Pump.fun also putting in a big double-digit day. I've noticed too, it kind of came back up to this resistance level, which was basically its open. It had broken out. It basically got a little bit over exuberant, so I wasn't surprised to see this big correction. But it bounced here, not even it didn't even come back down to its 50-day moving average, and is already back up past this resistance level. So Pump is actually looking really good right now too. There's a ton of them. There's a ton of them that are looking good. There's some that are looking really good, that are heavily up into the double digits. But yeah, everything is up right now. Everything looks really good at the moment.
Awesome. So let's dive into Sebastian's question from the platform.
Yeah.
How are the signals looking for Arrow? And overall, will the altcoin rally continue?
I do think the rally will continue. And Arrow is looking good. Arrow's got a similar ladder pattern, like I was just showing with Hyperliquid and Solana. I like too. I mean, it's as good as either of those. Honestly, it bounced perfectly off of its bull market support band too, setting a nice series of higher highs and higher lows. I think Aerodrome will continue to do well. I think its tie-in with Coinbase is really strong, and that's not going to go anywhere. It's going to continue to benefit from that, and it's seeing really high volume, really high TVL. It's one of the stronger DeFi assets in the space right now, and this chart is reflective of that clearly. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for the question, Sebastian. And then, I know this hasn't been asked yet, but I know I'm reading our community's mind right now, and they want you to go look at Sui.
Yes, Sweet's having a good day. It's still in a bit of a sideways pattern. It kind of needs to regain its momentum, but it's doing what it needs to do in the moment. In that it's solid. What is it, up six or so percent on the day? I'd like to see it up double digits like some of the other ones, but it's back up above its bull market support band at least. It's above its 10-day. It really needs to get back above its 50-day and its 20-day though, which it's not. So it's got some work to do. It's in a larger sort of structural downtrend, which I don't love at the moment. But and I don't like that it sort of broke down out of the bottom side of this wedge. So it technically doesn't look as good as some of the other stuff that we've been talking about, but it's hanging in there. It's tracking with the market, at least in the moment. And overall, I'm still bullish on the project. But there's no question that the momentum has waned a little bit on Sui. I mean, there's no two ways about it, as much as I hate to say that. But we know fundamentally the project is still strong. We know there's money coming in. They're generating money. There's treasuries coming online. They're cooking, behind the scenes. They're not slowing down behind the scenes, and it's a great team, as we know. So I think the odds are still in their favor for sure.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's head over to a coin that I've been very bullish on for maybe about a week now, which is PunkStrategy. I want to highlight I want to check. First of all, let's take a look at their
Yeah.
chart, see what you're
Oh,
thinking there.
yeah.
Um yeah.
So yeah, the chart continues to look good. It's definitely a little bit overbought. The RSI is pretty high at the moment. Although in crypto we know that can not necessarily mean anything. The RSI can stay overbought for literally weeks at a time. But I do, it's objectively doing well. It had a little bit of a slowdown here. I almost bought here, and I'm kicking myself for not buying here because now it's up almost 2x from there. Just in the last. This is a 4-hour candle, mind you, because it's brand new, as we know. But yeah, it's going on setting new. It literally just set a new all-time high in the last 4-hour candles. So looks really good. Continuing to adopt new buyers. One thing it's a little interesting to me, and I need to double check because the volume isn't as high as I'd like it to see, but I think that this is only showing it on this one pair on Uniswap, and I need to look and see. Maybe this isn't the primary exchange where it's traded, but I was surprised that the volume is maybe as low as it is, given how much attention it's getting right now. But the market cap is still really, really low, which I think is really favorable for it, and it's not too late, I feel like, and I do feel like that it's going to continue to run. I do want to see some of these punks actually sell that it's buying, because I think that's obviously going to really jump the price big time as soon as that starts happening. So as we kind of touched on this a little bit on the Monday show, how the flywheel hasn't fully sort of done its thing yet. It's sort of stuck on the part where the punks need to start selling,
Yeah.
or the punks need to be bought that it's trying to sell. But in the meantime, good things are happening. It's generating fees. It's buying more punks. It's doing what it needs to do. The price is going up. More holders. All of that stuff. So, and I think that it will. And I do think it's only a matter of time before some of these punks start selling. And so I probably need to get in on this too, because I think as soon as even one of those sell,
Yeah.
that's going to be 50 plus ETH immediate buy, and that's going to be a huge green candle right there. I mean, a huge green candle. And then maybe if somebody even comes in and starts sweeping the floor on some of these punks, it's just going to go exponential. So really, really interesting project for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're up to 18 or 19 punks now. When we talked about this on Monday, I think they had like 15 in the vault. So they're
Right.
obviously picking up quite a bit. So that's the trade idea I put in last week.
Yeah.
Doing well. Got
Doing
in, I
well.
think we got in just under a $50 million. I think when I input, so I wrote a note. When I wrote the note, it was at $50 million market cap, but then it dipped a little bit. And I actually ended up getting this in, I believe it was around 42 or 43 million market cap. So looking good. But honestly, like you said, Kris, I don't think it's too late on this one. I think it's only what, just barely over 100 million market
Yeah.
cap. We
I mean, that's
see
nothing.
rekt hit like almost $500 million market cap. So I
Yeah.
think this one just definitely has another 5, even 10x left in it.
Easy.
Uh,
Yeah.
and just like you said, all it takes will take is one punk to sell, not just even for the price action, because that will skyrocket once they buy that 50 ETH and burn it, but also the people that may be sitting on the sidelines or people that have some already. All they need to see is just proof of the concept. And once they see
Right.
that, they might just start going in gung ho, if you will. So I really
Yeah.
do like this project. I like the idea behind it. And one thing I also like about them is they're not alone. There's a whole, I guess, meta of NFT strategy tokens. You got Pudgy strategy, you have Meebit strategy, you have Squiggle strategy, you have, I think, Dickbutt strategy, and then you have Max Payne strategy coming out soon, and a few other
Right.
strategies in the works that are all going to benefit PunkStrategy. They're
Right.
all going to dedicate at least 1% of their buybacks to buying PunkStrategy and burning it. So there's multiple streams of demand coming in for this, which makes me pretty bullish overall. So if you feel like you missed the boat, listen, it's still barely over 100 million market cap, which we know is nothing for, I guess a meme coin, or I guess this is a strategy coin now, right? We had the
Right.
brand coins, we had the meme coin. So love this trade, and looking forward to seeing how this ends up doing.
Yeah. This one could absolutely just rocket instantly, and go from 100 million to 3 or 4 or 500 million, in no time at all.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on it. Definitely one that we'll be monitoring going forward. Kris, we got a question from ET. What do you think of Near? Do you think there will be another nice entry for it? I missed $2.57 yesterday. Well, ET, I think a lot of us missed a lot of entries yesterday
yeah.
compared to how the prices are today. So don't worry too much. But let's see what we think of Near. We haven't been super bullish on this one in the past, but has that changed, Kris?
Well, it's funny. If you're looking for an entry in Near, I don't think you're too late. It's still basically right at its bull market support band. It's just tapping its 50-day moving average. But like you said, Bijan, the larger concern for me is really the upside potential here. I don't know how much I see in it, honestly. It's been largely underperforming the rest of the market for some time now. And I often go back to the near Bitcoin chart when
Mm,
this comes up. Let me see.
yeah.
Because yeah, this
Wow.
this is the larger issue for me with near is it's just, and even if you zoom out to the weekly time frame, where'd my scale go? There we go. Um, yeah, so this is like, this is near Bitcoin. Even so, since May of 2024, it's just been kind of down only. It had a run, in the early or late stages of 2023 in that big alt run that we had. But outside of this run here, it's wildly outperformed Bitcoin. Like if you would have bought near at the beginning of the 2023 cycle, you would be down against Bitcoin like, well, what do we got here? You would have be down 80%. You would have lost 80% value against Bitcoin. So you would have been far better off just holding Bitcoin, honestly, the whole time, as opposed to holding near for the duration of the 4-year cycle. Outside of this little period, this kind of 4 or 5 month period where it outperformed, it's largely just been down only against Bitcoin. So I'm honestly really iffy on near. I mean, what this is showing here is the market just isn't, there's not a bid for near in the same way as there is for some of these other alts. And I don't know why. I mean, we know fundamentally it's a really solid project. What they're doing is great. It's a good team, it's a good project, but the market just doesn't like it for whatever reason. And I can't tell you why. That's the case with a lot of good alts, honestly. But I think it's important to, look at what it's doing against Bitcoin and make sure that it's outpacing it, because if not, honestly, you're better off just holding Bitcoin. And I think that that's the case here.
Absolutely. And Jamie Coots was very bullish on Near a while back, and he got rid of it, right? He
Yeah.
got it out of his portfolio. So I think that, to me, I mean, I was already, with you on Near, Kris. I wasn't a big fan of it. And then once Jamie got rid of it, I think that told me everything I really needed to know about Near. And you'll hear Kris and I talk about this quite a bit on the show here. We're picks and shovels kind of guys, especially when it comes to this AI stuff. I think
Yeah.
there's just better plays, whether that's in the Web 2 world, for, if you want to park some money into AI.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about right now, AI stocks like equities are actually well outperforming any sort of crypto, blockchain-based AI projects at the moment. I mean, and well outperforming. So if you want exposure to AI, I think right now the best place for that is in the equity space and not in the crypto space.
Yeah, absolutely. So, ET, I think you should be thankful that you missed that entry. And then I think maybe save that money and put it into maybe something more bullish with more upside.
Yeah.
Um, All right, guys, that's going to do it for our show today. Kris, before I ask you for your final thoughts, I want to ask you maybe for like one or two coins right now, if you had some dry powder that you would put it into. I know yesterday was probably the better day to do that, but
Sure.
let's say you were like ET and you missed that entry. What would you be most interested in putting that dry powder in right now?
Well, if we're talking high risk, I got to go with PunkStrategy for sure. I just think that the potential for that to like I said, boom is mega right now. I mean, it's just I'm really curious to see what happens with that. But it is high risk. It is a very,
Yeah.
very low market cap. I mean, it's not something you should go heavily into. It's, super low allocation to that. But it would be it's a heck of a home run swing if it goes for sure. But outside of that, kind of going less high risk, I'm really into hype. I think the chart looks really good. And I think that it's got decent upside still because its market cap is you know, even just a fraction of what Solana's is. It's a 10 or 12 billion, I think, sitting at right now. So hype looks good. I think it also another one that's catching my eye is Pump.Fun. I don't know. I just like this breakout here. I think that if it can close above this level here, I think that it's going to easily exceed its all-time high, and I think it's got a decent run in it still. I'm not super bullish long term on Pump.Fun, but I think in the short term, I think it's a solid structure. It's a solid setup here. It would have been even better yesterday, like you said, but
Yeah.
it looks good. It looks good, and I think that it's due for a pretty good breakout here. So those are a couple that have caught my eye, at least in the moment.
Awesome. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today. Kris, final thoughts. It's Wednesday, so we're at midweek. What should we think about going into the weekend before we see everyone again on Monday?
I really want to see Bitcoin close the day above 118. I think if it can do that, then we're looking good. We're well set up for Q4 and October and all of that. Obviously, if it doesn't close above 118, I'm still generally bullish based off of this candle today. But that's going to be a really solid signal if it can hold that level and just kind of cement that and lock that in. I'll feel just super good about that. So that's what I'm going to be keeping a close eye on today.
Awesome. Well, everyone, that's it for today. We'll see you again on Monday for our live TA show. And if you're not a member of Real Vision Connect, our show on Wednesdays are free, but we have more behind the tier in RV Connect. You get access to Kris's entry level portfolio, which is coming out this week. You
Yep.
also get access to Joe Bland's portfolio, which is also coming out this week. Both portfolios are well over 100% on their return. So definitely ones that you would want to follow along with. Plus, you get our longer show in Discord where you can ask more questions directly. And just a lot of great content on the website. You get access to trade ideas. You can see the notes, see what the hive mind is thinking. So if you're not an RV Connect member, go ahead and join. Would love to see you in the chat and just taking care of our Discord. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for today. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great week. Don't fuck this up.